Well, hello, I'm Karen Tems of the Business Network, Central and East Lancashire, proud sponsor of Business Bites with business leaders in conjunction with Lisa Edge of Lancashire and GBTV. Today we're chatting with a great friend and supporter of the Business Network from Action Coach, Paul Lim. Good morning, Paul. How are you?
Good morning, Karen. I'm brilliant. How are you?
Oh, absolutely fantastic. Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Well, after 30 years of being in the coaching world, how did a lad born in Blackburn and brought up in Aki, which is Accrington, to those from beyond the Lancashire borders, how did that start? How did you get involved in coaching?
I got drunk, believe it or not. I was 18 years old. I'd been out in Accrington with all my friends, got drunk as you do when you're 18, walked into my local pub on a Saturday evening and saw this sign on the wall that said sponsored something, and I'll do anything for charity, and I put my name down. Went into the pub on a Sunday lunchtime for a hair of the dog and walked past this note saying sponsored parachute jump. I thought, never get me doing one of them. And I went, okay, who's put my name on here? And they all said I did, and I had done while I was drunk. So there were 9 of us, 10 of us who did the parachute jump, and we all said if it wasn't for the other 9, we'd have backed out. And I'm so glad that I didn't, because it was just an amazing feeling. And I went on to do more and more and became a skydiving instructor and a formation skydiving coach. And that's where my coaching journey really began, taking people like you and I and on a Saturday morning, and by Saturday tea time, convincing them that it was perfectly reasonable to throw yourselves out of an aeroplane at 2,500 feet and survive.
Well, I've clocked up quite a few decades and nobody's actually got me to do that yet. So I'm
Not
interested
yet.
to, not yet. Yeah, well, there you go. That might be something for the next decade. So what is the difference, before I find out all about this, but what is the difference between formation, just hurling yourself out of a plane, and doing it with form and considerable style?
With aplomb.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, when people first start to take part in skydiving and parachuting, there's a lot of fear. You know, it's natural. You're going to be absolutely terrified, and I was on my first one. Yeah, it's fair to say. But you've had that much training that you go into sort of automatic pilot almost. So mindset is a big thing in skydiving, and it's the same in business. But mindset in skydiving is a big thing. So the more you get comfortable, the more you get used to doing that, the more you get inside your comfort zone, the better you get. So you start off. There's different ways of learning to skydive now. When I first started, the easiest way was to go and do a sponsored parachute jump, do some static line jumps, and then move on slowly onto free fall and go higher and higher. And eventually you get to a stage where you can actually jump out of the plane with other people. So when you start jumping out of the plane with other people, then you start doing formation skydiving. So we'd take more experienced skydivers and take 3 or 4 of us up to 10 or 12,000 feet. Jump out of the back of the aeroplane, and while we were in free fall, we'd practice formations, and I'd coach people while we were in free fall, plunging and plummeting towards the earth at 200 feet a second on formations. But the key to it was the amount of practice and the amount of preparation we did beforehand, before we even got in the plane to go up to altitude. So everybody knew what was going to happen, and then the debrief afterwards, the reflection afterwards on what we'd done, was equally important. And those kind of things can be taken forwards into business as well, in terms of, you know, the amount of preparation you do and reflecting on what you've done afterwards as well.
Fantastic. So you started your coaching experience with skydiving. At what point then did you consciously bring that into your business life?
Well, I've been in marketing and sales throughout all of my business career, and quite quickly I was leading teams of people, first of all in the publishing industry, and then more recently in commercial interiors and the other sort of sectors that I've worked in, leading teams. But that was almost unconsciously coaching people. I wasn't going, right, yes, I'm going to coach this person to do this, because I had no formal coaching qualification apart from my skydiving qualifications. And it was only really when I became managing director and co-owner of a company in 2013, that started to come to the fore more. And I was co-owner of that business for 3.5 years. And then I moved on and formed a company called Lancashire Business Growth Limited, bought a license for Action Coach, and then started coaching people more formally in 2018. So it's relatively recent that I've actually, we've actually got a business coaching business, but I've been doing it throughout my business career.
Yeah. So it was a natural progression for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why Action Coach? What was it about Action Coach that their methodology that you particularly like or enjoy?
Well, it's strange. I found Action Coach by accident. I was through Lancashire Business Growth Limited. I was doing some work with people who were either on the edge of my industry, my former industry, and wanted to get into it, or were in the industry and wanted to get better. And I spoke to a guy who I'd known for years and years and years, because I knew he knew somebody I needed to speak to. And he said, "Well, why don't you look at Action Coach?" And I said, "Who's Action Coach?" I've never heard of it. They said, "Well, I've been an Action Coach for 10 years. And I thought, that goes to show how often I've looked at his LinkedIn profile for the last few years. Because we've been linked on LinkedIn for ages. And he explained about Action Coach, and I got in touch with the UK master license holders and went along to the Business Excellence Forum, which is a fantastic conference that they hold once a year with over 1,000 delegates, obviously not this year for obvious reasons. With some fantastic world-class speakers there as well, and it was amazing. It's the only way I can put it. It was amazing. But the key for me with Action Coach is quite simple. They've been around for 26 years. Brad Sugar's the founder of Action Coach, started it in Australia 26 years ago, and it's now a worldwide organisation. There's 1,100 coaches in over 80 countries around the world, and they've got a set of systems and strategies, a toolbox of strategies that have worked consistently with business owners for the last 26 years. So it was real leverage for me to be able to buy into that, because it saved me having to start again and rewrite all the systems and strategies. We know that all the stuff works because it's worked for 26 years with over 500,000 business owners. And there are literally thousands of case studies from around the world, and hundreds in the UK alone, with business owners where we know it's actually worked. So, it's a no-brainer for me to actually get involved with Action Coach.
Fantastic. And have you ever looked back in the time that you've been involved with them?
I often look back. Yeah, I mean, I purposely reflect on the day, the week, the month, the year that we've had, and it has been a roller coaster at times. COVID has impacted our business, but in a positive way, I'm glad to say.
That's really interesting to know. Obviously, in the conversations I've had with other leaders in this series, how pandemic has affected the business has been key, and we've had some quite different stories. So I'm really interested to learn about your positive experience. Do tell.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing is we've not lost any clients, which for me is absolutely fantastic. We've had no clients who've left us during that time. And we've worked extensively and harder with our existing clients, done extra sessions with them, and given them more support. And they've all moved forward during lockdown, in different ways, but they've all moved forward. But the more important thing for me was at the start of lockdown, and my purpose and my philosophy has always been to help as many people as I can. The more you give, the more you get. So one of our points of culture is abundance. So giving more than you need to other people. So we worked out the other day, we've worked with somewhere between 450 and 500 business owners during the pandemic through gifting all of our spare coaching slots to people who just needed to have a conversation, and doing webinars online and workshops, free webinars and workshops to people who really needed help. And we've had some absolutely brilliant feedback from those people during that time, which has been amazing. I've just posted one this morning, which almost brought a tear to me, I have to say. And we've won some new clients as a result of it. The reason for doing all that work wasn't to win new clients. It was to help as many people as we could. But, I'm a great believer in karma. What the universe will give you what you deserve. And I think, just because of the amount of work we've put in and the amount of people we've helped, we've been rewarded as a result of that. But it's just gratifying for me to see how many people we've helped to either stay alive or move forwards during the pandemic.
That is really good to know. One of the things that you did very quickly as a member of the business network was to offer gifted sessions to our members, and I know that a goodly chunk took you up on that offer and have benefited as a result of that. So yes, your abundance was clear to see, and from what I can gather, the feedback has been fantastic.
It's been really gratifying to get the feedback. I've never worked so hard as I have over the last 3 or 4 months. Never worked so hard as I have over the last 3 or 4 months, but it's been brilliant. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good to know. And as you say, with karma, what goes round will come round for sure.
Absolutely.
I know that as part of your coaching, you encourage people to learn, continue to learn, and in some cases unlearn and then relearn. So what, as a passionate learner, what are you doing outside of your action coaching at the moment? How do you continue your learning?
Reading. I'm an avid reader. I attend one of our webinars at least every other day as well. Action Coach supplies plenty of world-class speakers for us to listen to. But reading is my passion. I read about a book a week, around a book a week. So I'm constantly learning, but it's focused learning as well around what I actually need to learn at that particular time. At the moment, in fact, I've got them here because I thought you might ask. I'm reading a book called Who, which is about recruiting great people and the recruitment process to get the very best people into your business. So that's one book that I'm reading. I've just finished reading Make Yourself a Little Bit Famous by Penny Haslam, who was a special guest on our last 90-day planning workshop. I am going to be rereading this, which is a great book. Anybody who wants to get better at prospecting and getting new leads into the business. Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blount is an absolutely brilliant book. And obviously, because I'm a coach, I'm still learning as well. So I'm reading books about coaching all the time. So those are the books I've just read and the books I'm about to start reading.
Excellent. And when you're not reading to help you become the best Paul you can be to help all of your clients in Action Coach, what interests do you have?
Well, I'm lucky enough to live in a little village called Chapeltown, just outside Bolton. So I'm on the West Pennine Moors. I go walking a lot. But during lockdown, I've had a piano sat in my kitchen for the last 6 years that I've been promising myself that I'm going to start to learn.
Well, I'm just wondering how big your kitchen is. Is it a grand?
No, it takes up one full wall. It's an electric piano, but it's
wow.
So I've started to learn to play piano. So I've learned a couple of tunes now. I'm trying to learn how to read music. I've played guitar for years, but just strumming along to different.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to learn new things all the time. I think if we constantly challenge ourselves, constantly try to expand our minds, both in business and outside of business, then what can possibly go wrong? You're constantly looking to grow.
Well, I wouldn't beat yourself up too much about the reading music because Paul McCartney still can't read music. He told me the other day, so
well, there you go.
You're in good company. You're in great company.
I'm actually named after Paul McCartney as well.
Are you?
Yeah. My mum and dad, when I was born a long while ago in 1964, gave my 2 older brothers the choice of what to name me. Initially, they wanted to name me after the entire Burnley Football Club squad because they were both Burnley fans. And when my mum and dad said no, they said, can we name him after the Beatles? And my mum and dad said, which one? And they said, all of them. So I was almost called John, Paul, George, Ringo. But eventually they settled on Paul. So that's where my name comes from.
Who knew? So with your coaching, which you invest in your own coaching so much, which is fantastic. So you've got that. You also have your interest in the great outdoors and learning the piano. I've got to ask a quick question. I think you started the sentence with saying, "Oh, I had this piano in the kitchen for about 12 months." Usually, I've got a cooker in my kitchen and a fridge freezer. So how does one get a piano in their kitchen? How does one just, happen upon a piano in the kitchen?
Well, I'm a little bit impulsive.
Uh-huh.
And if I get something in my head, then nothing's going to stop me. And it's actually about 5 or 6 years ago, I got the idea in my head that I was going to learn to play piano. So I just walked into my local music shop and went, "I'll have that one." I said, which ones are the best ones? I wanted a weighted, one with weighted keyboard, so it felt like a proper piano. Sounded great, and said, "Right, I've no idea I'm going to pay for it, but that's the one I'm going to have." So I came to an agreement. We were going to do installments on how to pay for it and everything, and got it. And then tinkled around with it for a little while. Did a bit on YouTube, but I was never really committed to it. I've never really set myself a goal or set myself some time every day to say, right, I'm going to practice for half an hour a day. It's before I got to the stage where I am now with coaching and with mindset, being able to coach myself as well on how to do that. And my coach, I have a session with my coach every week. And the first thing we talk about are my personal goals. And my personal goal is to learn to play the piano. I'm also writing a book as it happens. So I've got 2 personal goals. And she talks to me about those every week before we do anything else.
Brilliant. Which just goes to show that you have to have a balanced approach to life. It's not all about work. It's also about your, as you say, your personal goals and making sure that you've got a lot outside your working life to get that. I know people call it a work-life balance. I always used to call mine a life-work balance. It's gone out of kilter recently, but it will come back. Tell me about the book. Is it to do with your coaching? Is it fiction?
This book is all about business. It's the working title. We don't know whether it's going to end up as this. We're just in talks at the moment with.
Well, tell me, because it's a secret, and I will not mention it to anybody else.
Don't mention it to anybody else.
No.
It's called "It Wasn't Meant to Be Like This."
Yeah, I like that.
A frustrated business owner's handbook.
Right.
Don't tell anybody, Karen.
It's a big secret.
It might change. Not sure yet. But.
Okay.
So we're in talks with publishers and independent publishing houses at the moment as the best way to move it forwards. So I'm loving writing. I'm loving helping people. It's going to be aimed specifically at sole traders and solo limited company owners or solo partner limited company owners with nowhere just 1 or 2 employees, because we see a lot of those kind of business owners who are struggling and want to do more. And you mentioned work-life balance before, and for me,
life-work balance, I think.
Life-work balance. It was Brad Sugars, the founder of Action Coach, who said business is about giving you more life, not giving your life to your business. And I meet so many business owners who are on the hamster wheel of business, just running and running and running and running, and when they get off, they've gone nowhere. So I want to help as many of those people as I can.
That's fantastic. And what excites you particularly about the coming 12 months? We at the Business Network, we're finding that members are now starting to go back to their office life, and they're working very hard to pick up the pieces to create a new way forward. What excites you about the next 12 months period?
I just think it's going to be such an amazing time. I'm 100% positive about the future. When we have if you have a really big storm, a hurricane or something like that, and it blows your house down, and you have the option to rebuild your house, would you rebuild it in exactly the same way? Most people would say no. They want to put some new designs into it, and business is exactly the same. Business owners right now have got the opportunity to rebuild the business in a better way, in a way that works for them. And to rebuild their lives and the business lives around that as well. So it's an ideal opportunity now for people to get some help on how to move the business forwards in the way that they really want it towards the dreams that they had when they first went into business. A lot of people have lost that dream because they're just locked in the day-to-day grind of business. but it's given people an opportunity to just step back a little bit and have a look at the business.
Yeah. And if I can just take the moment to say that if that describes who you are, our listeners and our watchers, and you perhaps need a little help with your focus, then do call Paul Lim of Action Coach. I can promise you it will be a very revealing conversation and propel you into wanting to do something different. So apart from that plug, where do people find you, Paul?
Well, they can find us on our website. If they just Google Action Coach Bolton, they'll find it's bolton.actioncoach.co.uk, or just drop us a line at bolton@actioncoach.com, and we'll get in touch, get back to them as quickly as we possibly can. So that's the easiest way for people to get in touch.
Fantastic.
Or they can come along to the Business Network monthly meeting and see me there.
Ah, shucks. This is true. Thank you. And there was a little bit of karma in action. What goes round comes round.
Absolutely.
So from skydiving coach to business coach, it's been an absolute pleasure to share this time with you this morning, Paul. And here's to an absolutely cracking 12 months ahead. Thank you very much indeed for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thanks, Karen. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.